We are here to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays' first week of spring training. Now, as you guys remember, I said last week that I was going to be trying to do the video on Sunday, but then I thought to myself yesterday, I thought, you know what, the Raptors played today, and then there's nothing going on tomorrow. And so I thought that was probably the better way of doing it, kind of spread things out a little bit, keep you guys getting a video almost every day, and it allows us to see more Blue Jays baseball so we can talk about more things. And let's start right away. The Blue Jays are kicking teams' butt. I mean, obviously it's spring training and it really doesn't mean anything because if you guys look at the Grapefruit League standings, if I'm not mistaken, something like the Miami Marlins are up near the top two. And you look at the end of this season, you know, when it comes to actual baseball, right? Miami's 7-3 and we're 6-2. Baltimore 6-4. Do you expect those numbers to continue for all these teams into the regular season? You don't. It's spring training. Things happen. And but let's talk about these games. And we're not going to sit here and break down every single game because we'll be here forever. We're going to go through the roster. I have the roster on MLB At Bat. I have the entire roster if you guys can look at that. I don't know what's going on there, but you guys know what I'm looking at here. The 40-man roster that I have here. And any of the names that jump out to me as a guy that I think it would be really interesting to talk about, I'm going to break it down a little bit for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys want me to do it a different way, let me know in the comments. This is all up spring training for me too, people. All right, so let's get started here. Right at the top with a guy that we all have tried to love but never really gotten an opportunity to fully love. And a guy like Anthony Alford. You know, a guy that obviously we saw at the end of last season. You really wanted to see him get that chance. He didn't get too much of an opportunity, but we all knew this spring training was a big make it or break it deal for Anthony Alford. And obviously 25 years old now. You know, it's kind of his like that last shot, kind of like with Dalton Pompey kind of had that last opportunity. And obviously injuries have hurt Alford in the past. But, you know, you look at his spring training numbers, 28 at-bats, he's only hitting 179 with a home run RBI, and he stole 2 bases. I think the 2 stolen bases, if I'm not mistaken, were in the same game, and he stole home. So, I mean, he does bring that aspect that the Jays do not have. So, I think if you're Anthony Alford, you got to use that the best you can. Now, obviously, it's very early in camp, very early in the spring. It's only March 2nd. It's the 2nd, correct? Let me just have a look. Yeah, it's only March 2nd, so you still have lots of time to turn things around and get things going. But for a guy like Anthony Alford, I look at defense. If I'm not mistaken, early in the spring, he made a really bad error. It was kind of like a lazy fly ball, and he missed it. I mean, those are things that are going to be really looked at because that was a problem last year with this team defense. Team defense is going to be probably one of the biggest things they're going to look at. And, you know, a guy like Ryan Goins back in the day, that's a big reason of why he was on the team, because he was that good of a defender. A guy like Anthony Alford, we know he has speed. We know he has some pop. It's just, can he put things together? We're going to have to wait and see how it goes the rest of the spring training for him. Chase Anderson is the next guy, and he was obviously one of the pieces acquired in the offseason from the Milwaukee Brewers, and obviously 32 years of age, a guy that's kind of slated into that rotation already. But the problem I have with him, well, not really a problem. It's just his first 2 outings have been really bad. Now, obviously, the last one, which was yesterday against Pittsburgh, he got absolutely lit up. Didn't even get out of the first inning. He had a tough time there. Now, obviously, it's very early in the spring. He go out in his next outing, go 3 or 4 shutout innings, and then we're talking totally different, right? So, for a guy like Chase Anderson, it's still kind of he's in that rotation spot. And continuing to see how he progresses throughout the rest of the spring. But again, so far, not really impressed. But again, like I said, so early on in the spring. And like I said, if he goes out there and does a great outing in his next time, then maybe he'll turn some heads and we'll all think, oh, okay, maybe he's all right then. So it's all, you know, touch and go with Chase Anderson. Remember last year, guys, Daniel Hudson, in the first game of the season, gave up the home run in extra innings. We're like, who is this guy? He just came in here and gave up a home run in extra innings. Lo and behold, he becomes one of your main guys in the bullpen, and you trade him at the deadline to the World Series champion, Washington Nationals. So, first impressions are huge, but they really don't mean a lot, especially when they're in spring training, all right? Let's keep going here. We're not going to talk about Bo Bichette or Kevin Biggio because we know what they are. We all expect great things from them in the future. Whether they have a good batting average or not in spring training, it really doesn't matter for guys like that. A guy like Ryan Brock, if I'm not mistaken, he had a setback. He hasn't yet pitched in the spring. I don't even know if he'll be ready for opening day. I don't think so. So for a guy like Brock, I mean, we talked about it in the preview video. We talked about it as like injuries have really plagued this kid, and we know when he's out there, he's very good. But the question is, can he stay on the field? And a guy like Devin Travis is a guy like I mentioned in the last one. A guy that was really good when he was on the field, but when he wasn't on the field, I mean, obviously he wasn't playing and wasn't really a liability. We know the talent Brucky has. He's got to continue to grind, and hopefully he can get healthy and stay healthy. All right, let's keep going down here to a guy that has really intrigued me. 25-year-old infielder Santiago Espinel, a guy that, was acquired in the Steve Pearce deal a couple of years back now from the Boston Red Sox, and has gone through the system, as a normal guy, a normal young player does, and he has impressed me a lot so far in the spring. I mean, obviously in very short time, I think he's like 10 at-bats, he has like a 400 batting average, but it's not even just that. The way this guy played in AA last season was one of the top players there. Then he got called up to AAA and did really well in his very, very short time there. But then so far in the spring, in the 10 at-bats that he's had, he's impressed. Now, will it amount to anything? Will he make the team? I don't think so. I think he's a guy that you're not going to give a spot to right away. I think you're going to put him back in AAA Buffalo and let him continue to groom. Because like a guy like Nate Pearson, a guy like Forrest Wall, those are guys that haven't had a lot of time in AAA Buffalo. Yeah, we saw him there, but they only had like 10, 20 games maybe. And for Pearson, he only had, 3 starts or something like that. So, there's still lots of time for these young kids to continue to grow. But a guy like Santiago Espinel has really impressed me so far in the spring. And hopefully he can continue to do so. Because a guy like him, I would love to see some great things out of Espinel. And hopefully we can see how things go here. And now a guy like, where is he here? Derek Fisher, I mean, this is the thing about spring training, guys. He's hitting 286 with a 286 on base percentage. Clearly hasn't walked at all. But he's only struck out 3 times in the 6 games that he's played. He's got a couple doubles in the game. So Derek Fisher's put a pretty good spring training together so far. But again, we don't know. We all saw him last year. And that's where our minds are right now. Until we see Derek Fisher out there in a regular season game and maybe do this, then we'll change our opinions. But until then, spring training is spring training. That's all I got to say about that for Derek Fisher. Let's keep going down here. Thomas Hatch, again, young guy, hasn't really had a great spring. He'll probably go down to AA New Hampshire, maybe even Buffalo because he's already 25. But I don't know how they're going to work with him. Throughout the spring, hopefully he can continue to get some outings. And a guy like Danny Jensen is a guy that I think a lot of people have talked about during the offseason, and rightfully so. A guy that, had a lot of great things happen for him in his first stint with the Blue Jays when he first came up. And, then last year he had a really down year offensively. It was fantastic defensively. We all loved Danny Jensen behind the dish. But offensively, he really wasn't a whole lot. Had some pop, but again, really didn't show any sort of consistency. But if I'm not mistaken, so far in the spring, Danny Jensen, he's hitting 500. Now, obviously, only in 5 games and only had 8 at-bats. But he's got the 4 hits. He's got a couple home runs. He's got 5 RBIs. He's walked 3 times. Danny Jensen, I'm not going off of the numbers. But what I am going to say about Danny Jensen is he is putting up extremely good at-bats. Extremely good at-bats, plus the defense that he's going to continue to bring. I don't know. I'm trying not to look too much into the spring numbers for Danny Jensen, but when I'm watching the guy out there, it's impressive. Now, can he transition this into the regular season? That's remained to be seen, and that'll be answered near the end of March. But good things for Danny Jensen. He's had a great spring so far. Good stuff going on for him. Anthony Kay is a guy that I think a lot of Jays fans, a lot of hype behind the guy, just for the fact of, acquired in the Marcus Stroman trade, right? You saw him a little bit last year. You saw some flashes of some really good things, some flashes of some maybe not so good things going on for Anthony Kay. And in the spring, he had a rough first outing. I think he gave up 1 or 2 runs in his first outing. But then in his second one, he was nice and clean. I think he went 2 or 3 solid innings. So a really good job by Anthony Kay bouncing back in the second outing, kind of getting loose a little bit. So good to see for him. I know it's only spring training, but when it comes to pitchers and you see the confidence build up early on in the season, it's really good, especially for a young guy who's trying to make the team. So it's a really good job for Anthony Kay in his last one. And Elvis Luciano. I think a lot of people are so torn with this kid because we all know what we saw last season. We knew he was too young, and we all, had that feel with Elvis Luciano, right? And we knew in spring training he would probably get an opportunity and get some time here and then get sent down to the really low minor leagues, or maybe even like Dunedin or, New Hampshire or whatnot, and continue to grow and develop and go from there. Now, obviously, he's only pitched 2 times in the spring, and he's only pitched the 2 innings that he's only pitched 2 innings. He's only thrown 11 pitches, and he gave up 1 hit, and he's striking out a couple batters. he has looked really solid in his 2 innings. Now, ideally, it's only 2 innings of work, and you want to see more of him throughout the rest of the spring. But if a guy like Elvis Luciano, I got a question for you guys here. If a guy like Elvis Luciano, has a really good spring and continues at the pace he is, maybe has a 0 ERA, but a fairly respectable one, and he looks composed and his stuff is working and that kind of thing, do you give him a shot to stay in the big leagues in the bullpen? The reason the Jays kept Joe Biagini in the bullpen is because he was really good in his first year. Luciano was having his rookie struggles, as we all expected, as a 19-year-old kid playing in the big leagues. So what do you do? Because the bullpen for the Blue Jays right now, I gotta say, it's kind of thin. We all really don't know who's going to be there. So what do you think, guys? Do you throw a guy like Luciano in there if he continues to progress and continues to look good in the spring? I don't know. So I don't think so, because you don't want to kill the guy's growth. But if it's a numbers game. If you don't have enough guys, then you might need them. Unless you just use one of your minor league guys, bring them up, send them down to New Hampshire, properly develop. Maybe even as a starter, they might try and develop him as, I don't know. They're clearly using him as a reliever, though, in spring. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the spring progresses for Luciano and how it all goes from here on out. All right. We know about Reese McGuire, Billy McKilling. Julian Merriweather is a very interesting one, guys, because we all know that Josh Donaldson was the one that we traded to the Cleveland Indians. And, obviously with a guy like, Julian Merriweather, you acquired him and obviously thought the Tommy John surgery happened. He didn't pitch it all the rest of that season. He didn't pitch it all this past season. And this is just basically his first spring training with the Blue Jays. And obviously in his first 2 outings, he hasn't really looked that good. An inning and 2/3 of 3 hits, 3 runs. He's walked a couple guys. But you guys got to remember, this guy hasn't pitched in how long? So, and it's ERA 16.20. It's not very pretty, obviously. But again, a guy like Merriweather is a guy that you might need coming out of that bullpen. I don't know. I'm very intrigued to see how they're going to handle this guy moving forward. But Julian Merriweather is a guy to keep an eye on. I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Patrick Murphy is a very interesting story. If you guys don't know the story about Patrick Murphy, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was in Double-A New Hampshire, and then he was told by, it was a big league umpires or someone like that his delivery was illegal. And he had to change his delivery. And as a guy who's pitched probably for so many years and gone through the Jays minor leagues and gotten to Double-A, to then be told that you got to change, it's hard. Now, ideally, he's only 24 years old, so he's still a very young guy. And his numbers in the spring so far, obviously he's only pitched the 1 game, only threw the 1 inning, but it was clean. He only threw 7 pitches and did a job. And he had a couple strikeouts. So, again, a guy like Patrick Murphy, I want to see more of moving forward. I want to see more of him in the spring, guys, because just for the fact of, it's an interesting story, plus he's good. Give him a shot. That's all I got to say about Patrick Murphy. No Thomas Pannone, Hector Perez, 23-year-old. He was one of the pieces acquired in the Roberto Osuna deal. Obviously, Ken Giles coming back to the Blue Jays as well. I actually have no idea how Hector Perez has done. He already had 450 in 2 games. I mean, he's had 2 holds, 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 run. I think it was a home run he gave up, but that was it. Had 3 strikeouts. He hasn't been terrible, but it not really opened any eyes at that. And Sean Reid-Foley is a guy that I think we all don't know who the heck this guy is. We've seen some erratic stuff from Sean Reid-Foley. His spring training numbers, he's thrown 3 games, 3 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, wasn't an earned run, only thrown 14 pitches in 3 innings. I mean, only had a strikeout. He's had a really good spring so far, but for a guy like Sean Reid-Foley, we're all kind of confused what this guy is. Is he going to be a guy that you're going to have near the middle of the bullpen, right? A guy who can only go that 1 inning, because we've seen him go from great to erratic in a heartbeat. So I don't know what we're going to see from Sean Reid-Foley moving forward. The fact that he's only thrown, he threw the 3 innings, but it was in 3 outings, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just going to check that again here, because I want to make sure that I'm getting that right. He's thrown 3 games and 3 innings, right? So he's come out of the bullpen as a reliever. So interesting numbers there. Maybe he'll come out of the bullpen for the Blue Jays this season. I don't know. Let's see how that all plays out. Tanner Roark, I don't think he's pitched yet. Maybe he has. I can't remember. There's been so many spring training games, and he has not pitched yet in the spring. So I'm not too sure what's going on there, but hopefully we can see him very soon. Hyun-Jin Ryu, the newest addition to the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, he only pitched the 1 time. I think he had 2 innings of 1-run ball, gave up a solo shot, but that was it. If I'm not mistaken, 1 inning. He gave up, in 2 innings, he gave up 3 hits, 1 run, walked the batter, and struck out a guy. But again, it's Ryu's first outing as a Blue Jay. He's been with the Dodgers' entire career, and he comes to the Blue Jays, and that's his first outing even in the spring. So don't go too crazy about that, all right? Travis Shaw has been really rough at the plate. Now, it's spring training. Hopefully he can turn things around. But again, I'm not too worried about Travis Shaw. He'll be just fine. All right, I'm not sure. I'm just going to leave it at that. Matt Shoemaker, the man himself, this guy, look, if you guys listen to the podcast, actually, that I was doing with Mo Buckets and his buddy Rob on Blue Jays Wave, we talk a lot about Matt Shoemaker and how this is a big redemption year for him. Obviously, with that injury he had in Oakland last season, ending his season after having 5 starts of ridiculously good baseball. You know, you expected to, you hope and pray that he can come out this year with that same sort of intensity. He threw his first spring training game actually today and threw 2 2/3 and struck out 5 guys and didn't allow a run. He was great. Now, obviously, it's his first outing, but the fact that he hasn't pitched in almost a year, basically, and threw 2 2/3 of shutout ball and had 5 strikeouts, really good stuff from Matt Shoemaker. Really, really good to see from him. Rowdy Tellez is a guy that I want to talk a little bit about here. Because a guy like Rowdy Tellez, obviously there was huge hype after that crazy, September call-up that he had, and he had that crazy double streak and the extra base hits and all that craziness that happened with Rowdy Tellez. Then in his next season with the Blue Jays, he really struggles. And we learned that he strikes out a lot, he chases a lot, he can hit the long ball, that's great. But he chased a lot, and his average was down in the 220s, if I'm not mistaken. And his numbers so far in the spring, heck, he has been fantastic. He's hit 333. He's had 6 games, 15 at-bats. He has a total of 5 hits in those 15 at-bats. 2 doubles. He's got a home run, 6 RBIs. He's walked once, 6 strikeouts in 6 games. He's looked pretty good so far in the spring. Hopefully he can continue to grow throughout the rest of spring training, can Rowdy Tellez, because, look, with him and Travis Shaw at first base, that's probably going to be the 1-2 we have there. It's going to be really interesting to see how they work that. Because there's a lot of, with Justin Smoke obviously leaving, it leaves a hole, and he's a switch hitting first baseman, and I'm very excited to see what happens with Rowdy Tellez, guys. I really, really am. Now, Jacob Wagas back. We haven't seen a lot of this spring. Again, numbers are kind of, I haven't really looked at his numbers at all, so let's just quickly go to that. And he's pitched 2 games. 2 1/3, hasn't given up a hit, hasn't walked walked 5, and struck out 3. So he hasn't given up a run. Good job for Wagas back, good job for him. And a guy like Trent Thorn is a guy I really want to talk about. Because we all know last year what he did. Ate up a lot of innings for this Blue Jays team. Led the big leagues with rookie strikeouts. And yeah, his ERA was was just under 5, I think it was. We were looking for that next step from Trent Thorn. Now, like I said earlier, I know it's the spring. But Trent Thorn's numbers, guys, he's pitched 2 games. 1 was a start. He's on 5 innings, has not allowed a hit, walked 3 guys, and struck out 2. He has been awesome so far in the spring, and I'm really intrigued to see how Trent Thorn takes the ending he had to last year, which was really good, and the spring training, if he can continue to put this type of spring together, how it transitioned into the regular season. I'm very, very interested to see what happens with him. Shun Yamaguchi, obviously a guy that, we obviously brought over from Japan. I think has he thrown 2 times, if I'm not mistaken? Shun Yamaguchi, spring training stats. 2 games he's thrown, 3 2/3, 5 hits, 4 runs, a home run, walked 2 and struck out 3. He hasn't been great. But again, you got to give the guy some time to get used to the game. Like, he just came over from Japan. He's now playing in North America, and you expect to be, that good. Breathe. All right? Let's just all breathe and take a chill pill on that. TJ Zoik I don't even know his numbers, and I'll quickly tell you guys the numbers, but I want to really touch on what I saw in the last game. He had 10.80 ERA in the 2 games, 3 1/3, 6 hits, 4 runs, not very pretty, 3 home runs for TJ Zoik. So, yesterday, I think he had a bases loaded, nobody out situation and got out of it. And I was really impressed with that. Obviously, he gave him a home run in the next inning to Gregory Polanco. It was a good pitch by him. It's a really good hit from Polanco. So that's it for the roster here. But there is a guy that I want to mention, and then we can wrap it up there. Nate Pearson. Woo, baby. And we all know the hype behind the guy, one of the top 10 prospects in baseball, the number 1 prospect in the Jays organization. And I think we've seen him 3 times now, 3 or 4 times, and he has been good. Yeah, definitely hasn't given up a run. Seems to strike out almost everybody he sees. And his pitches move. Not only is he throwing 100-mile-an-hour gas, his changeup is like 89, and then his curveball is a wipeout pitch. It is nice. So Nate Pearson, obviously, we know, and I think I read on MLB at Bat here, guys. I'm just going to pull it up here quickly so I can read it out to you guys. There it is. Blue Jays have plan in place for Nate Pearson. So anybody speculating what's going to happen or whatnot, they already have their idea. So let's just not even go there. Nate Pearson is dominating right now in the spring. Ideally, nobody knows him. Nobody's seen him except for the minor league guys. So you're not really worried. You're not really all about that. What I want to see is him go back to Buffalo to start the season, pitch really well, and then in May, come up and make an impact. That's what we're looking for. All right? So you know what, guys? That is going to do it for this one. Kind of a little bit of an update, about the team and what's going on and how they're having a really good spring overall. And the guys that we all like to talk about. I mean, obviously, Vladdy, Bo, and Kevin Biggio. We all love to talk about those guys. And Vladdy's laser beam he hit yesterday. And then the home run from Bichette yesterday, too. We can talk about those guys all day. That's why I'm trying to talk about the guys that we haven't talked too much about. And that's a really interesting part of spring training. You get to see so many different looks, so many different guys. If there's anybody I forgot to mention that has intrigued you, let me know in the comments below. Talk to me about them. Let me hear it. I want to hear what you guys think about the Toronto Blue Jays looking right now and how they're performing and what your expectations are for this season, because that's really what I want to talk to you guys about. All right. So you know what, guys, that is going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed the video and enjoyed talking about the Toronto Blue Jays, again, smack the like button. Do appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button if you guys have not already. Comment down below your thoughts on the game. Games. And anybody that's really intrigued, you guys comment down below everything. Let me hear everything you want to talk about when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays. Twitter is down below for myself. Follow up, send me a DM, do all that great stuff. Also, the Patreon link is down below in the description. So if you guys are interested in signing up for that, the link is down below. And I will talk to you guys Raptors edition tomorrow night as they are in Phoenix, I think it is. Taking on the Suns, the 9 o'clock tip-off there as Raptors looking to get back into the win column and looking for Spicy P to find himself, because he's been really struggling lately, especially yesterday against the Denver Nuggets in Denver. All right, 9 o'clock tip-off there in Phoenix. And as for the Toronto Maple Leafs, their next game is tomorrow as well. 10:30 puck drop in San Jose. Jack Campbell and Martin Jones are the goaltenders in that game. So very interesting to see Jack Campbell getting the start. It's actually really good to see that, because I see what they're doing with Frederik Andersen. You're putting Jack Campbell. I don't know. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Frederik Andersen's numbers against San Jose in the past have not been very pretty. And the fact that Jack Campbell has played against the Sharks a lot, maybe his numbers are very good. Plus, the next set of games is a back-to-back, so Jack Campbell's going to get one of those as well. So not only does it keep him fresh, it keeps Frederik Andersen fresh, because he doesn't have to play as much on the West Coast trip. So that's very good, very smart move from Sheldon Keefe. Like I said, 10:30 puck drop there. That video might have to be uploaded the next day, guys. I apologize, but I work early in the morning the next day, so it's going to be a tough one. But we'll see what happens tomorrow night, guys. 10:30 puck drop there for the San Jose Sharks. And as for our Blue Jays, guys, I'll talk to you guys either next Sunday or next Monday, depending on the situation and who's playing and whatnot. If the Raptors are playing, I'll probably wait till Monday, but if the Leafs are playing, I might just do it Sunday anyways. We'll have to play it out. We'll talk throughout during the week and everything on Twitter and in the other two videos. So if you guys are interested in, I don't even know why I just said that, but guys, where am I here? So Twitter's down below. Follow up, send me all that great stuff. I'm losing my brain here. I'm lost track of everything right now, guys. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys. Jays Edition. All right, so thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Total brain fart there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Talk to you guys then.